Today, we're diving into something really profound, a kind of psychological rebirth that happens for many of us in the second half of life. Now, this isn't about fading away or decline, not at all. It's about an ascension. It's about consciously letting go of the identity you spent decades building, the one based on what you do for everyone else, so you can finally become the person you were always meant to be. This is the journey from utility to essence, from a life of performance to one of pure presence.
This quote, it really hits home, doesn't it? The idea of spending our later years trying to clutch onto a ghost, the ghost of our younger, more useful, more professionally relevant self. We're taught to treat aging like a battle we're destined to lose. But here's a thought. What if that feeling of fading isn't a loss at all? What if it's just the stage being cleared for something way more real, way more substantial to finally arrive? That's what we're talking about today. It's not about becoming a ghost of who you were. It's about finally truly coming into focus. All right, so here's our roadmap for this journey. We've got 5 acts. First, we'll get to know the first you and understand why it naturally starts to fade. Then, we'll dive into a really crucial stage, the great identity exhaustion, that necessary collapse of the old you. From there, we'll explore how to start authoring your new self, and I'll give you the practical steps with the integration protocol. And all of this leads to our final destination, a powerful ascension into truth. Okay, let's kick things off with Act 1. Because before we can really welcome the new, we've got to understand what we're being asked to let go of. We need to explore the world of the first you, an identity that, let's be honest, served us incredibly well. It was built for a very specific purpose in a world that pretty much measures our value by how useful we are. So think of your first you as this incredible high-performance machine. It's what got you through the most demanding decades of your life, right? It was this social identity we all build, carefully designed to win at the big games of life. Building a career, raising a family, getting that status. And what was its fuel? External validation. That's the key. Promotions, praise, what other people thought. That's what kept the engine running. And for a long, long time, it worked. It was necessary. But no machine is designed to redline forever. Its purpose was always finite. So why does it start to fade? Well, it's not just about getting older or having less physical energy. It's something much deeper, a real psychological shift. Your soul is just tired of the game. The constant performing, the proving, the chasing of goals that other people set for you, it's become exhausting on a level that has nothing to do with your body. It's a soul fatigue. And this feeling, it's not a sign that you're broken. It's a signal that you've outgrown the game and you're ready for what's next. And right here, this is the core of it. The first you was a human doing. Your value was all about your utility, what you could produce, what you could achieve. But the second you, it's a human being. Its value is just there. It's found in presence, in purpose, and in listening to your own internal truth. And this isn't a downgrade. It's a profound upgrade. It's a shift from being scattered and looking outward to being focused, powerful, and looking inward. Now, this whole process builds up to a major turning point. And, it's not always a smooth ride. For a lot of people, it feels like a total burnout. This feeling of being completely and utterly worn out by the roles you've played for so long. This is what we're calling the great identity exhaustion. Let's get really clear on what this means. Identity exhaustion is not the kind of tired you feel after a long workday. This is a soul-deep weariness that comes from the psychological weight of all your roles. For decades, you've been the manager, the parent, the fixer, the planner, the one everyone counts on. You played these parts so well that the real I at the center of your own life kind of got lost in the shuffle. This exhaustion is the signal that the show is over. It's a necessary collapse so the real person can finally step out from behind the curtain. This is an absolutely critical distinction to make. A midlife crisis is usually about trying to desperately hang on to youth, to go even harder on the strategies of the first you. But an identity realignment is the total opposite. It's this powerful, undeniable urge to just be real. Society might try to frame this as some kind of decline, but really, it's a decluttering of the soul. The first you was all about more money, more titles, more stuff. The second you is all about deeper connections, deeper meaning, and a deeper sense of who you are. And all that pressure, all that exhaustion, it all boils down to this one single question. And look, it can feel terrifying, but it is also the most liberating question you can possibly ask yourself. The first you was way too busy, too driven, too scared to even go there. But the emerging second you can't ignore it any longer. For so long, your worth was tied to how useful you were to other people. Now your soul is demanding a new definition of worth, one that has nothing to do with your roles. Daring to answer this question, that's the real beginning of your second act.
And what happens next is amazing. From the ashes of that exhaustion, a new self doesn't just show up, it takes charge. This is the biggest power shift of your life. It's the moment you stop being a character in a story someone else wrote, and you finally pick up the pen and become the author.
An incredible kind of freedom shows up here. You see, the first you was terrified of being overlooked, of becoming invisible. It needed that constant spotlight of approval to feel like it existed. But the second you finds its power in the exact opposite. It doesn't need to be seen by everyone else, because for the first time, it's truly deeply seeing itself. You realize you're no longer an applicant for a good life, just hoping someone else will approve. You're the one who gives the approval now. This really breaks down that power shift. The first you was a recipient of a life. You were following a script that culture wrote for you, always performing for some imaginary audience. But the second you becomes the author of an existence. You write the story now. You set the terms. You just live the experience directly without needing applause. That is the move from social utility to pure essence. So what does this new self actually look like? Well, it acts as the sovereign arbitrator of your life. Its validation comes from the inside. It becomes highly selective, not in a snobby way, but in a wise way, about where it puts its time, energy, and attention. This selectivity is really the primary trait of the elder, that hard-won ability to separate the noise of what everyone else wants from the clear signal of your own soul. You stop apologizing for what you like and don't like, and you find this new kind of power, an identity purity that comes from stripping away everything that isn't really you. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do it? How do you make this big internal shift a real thing in your day-to-day life? Well, this next part is a practical, actionable blueprint. This isn't about just waiting around for a feeling to hit you. It's about actively building the house you want to live in. This is the work right here, embodying your second you. We're going to walk through the Identity Integration Protocol. It's a 4-step process to ground this new self in the real world, to make it more than just a nice idea. Think of them as 4 fascinating experiments to get to know the person you're becoming. Let's break them down. First up, values distillation. You probably had a long, complicated list of values it was trying to live up to. Now's the time for radical focus. Take that list and cut it down to your core, non-negotiable 3. It's harder than it sounds, but it's so powerful. These 3 values become your new operating system for every decision you make. Second, identity-neutral activities. Join a pottery class, a book club, a volunteer group, anywhere nobody knows your resume or your family history. This is so important because it lets you discover who you are right now as a blank slate, without the mirror of your past accomplishments and roles staring back at you. Third is the circle audit. This one can be tough, but it's essential. Take a gentle but honest look at your friendships. Are they built around the high-achieving first you? Or do they see, and more importantly, do they celebrate the authentic second you that's emerging? The goal here is to surround yourself with people who vibe with who you are becoming, not just who you were. And finally, at number 4, start a presence journal. This is a huge shift away from the cult of productivity. Instead of writing down what you did today, log how present you were. How deeply did you listen in that conversation? How much did you notice on that walk? You start measuring your days by their richness, not by their output. So where does this whole journey lead? What does it feel like to live fully as the second you? Well, it's not an ending, it's an ascension. It's an ascension into your own truth, where your focus shifts from accumulating things to creating a legacy, embracing mastery, and living in pure, unfiltered presence. This right here might be the single most important shift in the whole process. The first you was always performing. You were always on, using up so much energy playing for an audience. But the big secret the second you discovers is there is no audience. At least they're not paying nearly as much attention as you thought. All that energy you spent managing your image, it's now free. All that's left is the direct, unfiltered, and incredibly rich experience of your own life. Just let that sink in for a moment. This new self isn't some stranger who just showed up. This is the person you've been becoming your entire life. Every success, every failure, every piece of wisdom you gained, it was all getting you ready for this meeting. This version of you is unshakable because it's not built on something flimsy like a job title. It's built on the solid bedrock of your history, your resilience, and your lived wisdom. So let's completely reframe this stage of life. This is not a slow fade into irrelevance. This is the ascension of legacy. You are not becoming a ghost of your former self. You are stepping into the honored role of the master, the elder, the one who has earned the clarity to see what really, truly matters. Your legacy isn't just about what you leave behind for other people. It's about how fully and truthfully you live for yourself, right here, right now.
And this is really the call to action, isn't it? It's a permission slip. For decades, your value was defined by how useful you were. To fully step into the second you have to give yourself permission to be useless by that old definition so that you can finally be completely, authentically truthful to yourself. In a world that's always screaming for you to be useful, choosing truth is a radical and beautiful act. And that brings us to our final question, the one for you to take with you. Because this isn't just an interesting idea, it's a choice you make every day. So look at the roles you're still playing, maybe out of habit or guilt, the fixer, the peacemaker, the organizer, the one who always says yes. Which one of those is taking up space that your second you needs to grow? Which old role will you decide to gently set down starting today to make room for your own truth?